Hare Krishna. We'll start with the Mangala Charan prayer. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmelitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Shwakarantikam Vande Ham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savarutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam hayate Yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Katanchana Smriti Asmin Duskaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismriti Viparitam Shat Sri Chaitanya Namamitam Hare Krishna. So welcome back all the devotees here to our regular Bhakti Sastra class. So we continue our discussion. Srimad Bhagavad Gita chapter 18. So today we will be discussing chapter 18, text 41 to text 55. Yeah. So in the previous class we were discussing about how the world is uh, influenced by the three modes of material nature. So basically we are talking about karma yoga again in the previous class. So this 18th chapter is also in one sense the summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Of course, the second chapter is declared to be the summary of the Bhagavad Gita, the entire Bhagavad Gita, because the second chapter contains the three main topics in the Bhagavad Gita, namely the Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. But this one, 18th chapter also, consider in one sense as the summary because it is the conclusion. Yeah, the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita is here, revealed in the 18th chapter. Just like normally people writing any books or any story or any movies, for example, so the conclusion will be at the end. So basically this 18th chapter, again, we're discussing whatever we have been discussing before. Yeah. Therefore, it is not something that's surprising that you may find it a little bit redundant. Redundant means repeating, repetitive. But in one sense, repeating Krishna Katha, the same discussion about Krishna, glorifying about devotional service is always pleasing to the ear of the devotees, of course. Okay, so there are two parts of our discussion today. The first one is that 41 to 48, worshipping Krishna through one's work. So this is called Karma Yoga, continuing the previous discussion. Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness, almost the same like in the 5th chapter. So this is also called the Karma Sannyas Yoga or Niskama Karma Yoga. So we are trying to please Krishna through our works. Of course, we will be talking about Varnashram here. So how by Varnashram we can please Krishna. Yeah. Although all work is controlled by the modes as described in the previous verses, One can become free from the reaction of work by performing one's occupational duty as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, while at the same time worshipping the Lord through that work. And then second part of our discussion, from Gyan Yoga to pure devotional service. Yeah, 49 to 55. So this is about transition from reaction-free work. So what is reaction-free work? Reaction-free work means when one is detached from the result of his activities, the result from his activities. So that is reaction-free work. Through Gyan Yoga to Brahman platform to pure devotional service. So from Karma Yoga and then move to Gyan Yoga and then devotional service. So here we'll be talking about the yoga ladder in the first 6 chapter again. Okay, text number 41. Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material.
कोई दिवस पासन ना तो
Ah, you have to.
कहीं तो बेटा गल्ला अटको याद
Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, O chastiser of the enemy. So, as we remember that Brahmanas, they are influenced mostly by the modes of goodness, and Kshatriyas by the mode of passion, Vaishyas by the modes of passion and ignorance mixed, and Sudras by the modes of ignorance. So this is actually natural. It is a natural division in the society. Somehow or other, we will find these all classes of men in the society. There will be some intelligent class or administrative class, some businessman with the Vaishyas, and the worker. But as Srila Prabhupada uh, mentioned in many of his lectures, that most of the population of the world, they are having Sudra's mentality, especially in the Kali Yuga. Text number 42. Samo damas tapasaucham ksantir arjavam evacha gyanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. So these are the qualities that belong to the Brahmanas, belong to the people in the mode of goodness. Yeah. So samo means peacefulness, dhammas, self-control, tapa, austerity, saucham, purity, saucham, cleanliness, purity, Xantir, tolerance, Arjavam, honesty. Arjavam is the same as Satyam. Jnanam, knowledge. Vijnanam, wisdom. So actually, Vijnana means realization or practice knowledge. But Srila Prabhupada translate here as wisdom. Yeah, because whatever knowledge that we get and we put into practice, that becomes wisdom. Astikyam means religiousness. So therefore, one of the duties of the Brahmanas is worshipping the deities and performing yajna. So this is religious activities, astikyam. Brahma karma swabhava. Swabhava means nature. So these are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So there is no purport in this verse.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, how to develop these qualities, Prabhu?
How to develop these qualities? Very nice question. Yeah, as it is mentioned here, Brahmana's work is to cultivate and teach these qualities. Mm. Then these are all good qualities belong to those in the mode of Sattva Gun. So how to develop these qualities? As described by Prahlad Maharaj, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samaste suraha. So these are the sura guna means the qualities belong to the demigods, the sura. There is Asura and Sura. There is demons and the Devatas. So this belong to the Devatas, like being uh, clean and all this stuff. Devatas means, as Srila Prabhupada used to explain, the Sura means the devotees and the Asura means the non-devotees. Therefore, the Devatas, they are mostly devotees. Although sometimes we find that in the society of the demons, there are some great devotees also, like Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj. Yeah. Then how to cultivate this? Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana. So by cultivating devotional service, so it's automatically all these good qualities will manifest within ourselves. Now sometimes there is a question that which one first, developing good qualities or bhakti? Good quality comes first or bhakti? It's actually it goes hand in hand. So when we cultivate bhakti, so automatically good qualities will manifest in ourselves, and by possessing good qualities we will be easy to advance in devotional service. So how to develop this? Just by trying to engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness somehow or other. Start from Sravanam Kirtanam, definitely. Yeah, because the process, these two processes, Sravanam and Kirtanam, is actually the foundation in our spiritual life in Krishna consciousness, especially Shravanam Kirtanam, by which the Shravanam and Kirtanam will lead us to Smarana, remembering the Lord. So when we remember Krishna, automatically we get purification, and these qualities will be manifest when our heart is pure. When our heart is pure, then we can automatically develop these good qualities. So at least this is actually belong to those who are in the modes of goodness, in the mode of goodness. So in order to become pure, because goodness means purity. Of course, purity, there is also another level of goodness, which is pure goodness. But at least because of our conditioning nowadays, most of the people situated in the mode of Rajogun and Tamogun. So by the process of Sravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam, these three things, so we can achieve these qualities. Well, it's not be instantly achieved. So these are the qualities belong to the Brahmanas. But then we have to keep in mind that the goal of life is not to simply become Brahmana. So to transcend this. So we may find that people having this some of these good qualities, but ultimately if they don't engage in devotional service, what is the point? Okay. So the point that I'm making is that, yeah, by the process of devotional service, automatically we will possess these good qualities. We can reflect into our lives and we can flash back before and after coming to Krishna consciousness, how we were before and at least now. At least there are some changing. There are some changes in our lives, right? Like for example, let's say here, self-control. Yeah, self-control. How was our eating style before we joined Krishna consciousness compared to now? Okay, we may not be completely controlling our self now, but in some degree, there is some change, like austerity. We follow some certain austerity, like in Ekadasi day, or purity, cleanliness. So it's a lot of transformation by Krishna consciousness activities. So it's automatically all these good qualities will be developed. So the more we observe in Krishna consciousness, definitely all these good qualities will be manifest. Yeah. So yes, yasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana. Akinchan means without any material desire. Why all these good qualities may not appear on us all together? Because we still kinchan. We're still having some material aspiration within our heart. But by the due course of times, as we are progressing in our Krishna consciousness, we will become akinchan, we will become niskinchan. Then all these good qualities will be manifest. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Srimati Prabhu. After a long time, finally get your
Yeah,
darshan.
yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. All right.
Correct. Yeah, right, bro. Thank you very much.
This is a lecture from Srila Prabhupada. So we can understand from our own body, there is head department, there is arms department, there is belly department, and there is leg department. So head is first class. Prabhupada is referring to the Brahmana. Brahmana is the first class. Because if the arms, belly, legs are there and head is cut off, then everything is useless. If the head is there, arm is cut off, you can go on with your business. So first of all, Brahmana is the head and the most important part of the body. Of course, when we have uh, the complete whole of the body, the complete limbs of the body, so the body will be work very nicely. But even then, if the leg is cut off, still we can manage our life somehow or other, or the arm is cut off, still we can manage our life somehow or other. Yeah. So therefore, the Brahmana, the head, is most important, and the belly also important. The Vaishyas, the Vaishyas are very, very important. Therefore, the whole society mm, cannot be cannot run properly without brain. Without brain, first of all, and then second, without belly, because the whole parts of the body, first of all, directed by the brain, and secondly, the whole parts of the body is nourished when the belly is filled up. When the belly is filled up by some food. So therefore, the duty of the Vaishya is having a lot of importance. Sometimes people are asking, like, why when we are talking about Varnashram, we we start our discussion with cows and brahmanas. Yeah, why? Because belly and the brain is playing very important role for the body. Yeah. Sometimes the arm is cut off, so okay, people still remain alive and continue to live. The legs also like that. People still can manage, but without belly, without brain, the body is dead. So when we talk about society, when we talk about Varnashram, so we cannot neglect the Brahmanas and the cows, because protecting cows is the duty of the Vaishyas. So we'll see that later. And out of the six duties of the Brahmanas, yeah. So there are two most important things. The first two are the most important things, namely patan, studying and preaching. Just like here it is mentioned, the Brahmana's work is to cultivate and teach these qualities. Cultivate means to learn, to study how we develop these qualities. So after learning, then we have to teach. Yeah. These are two primary duties of the Brahmanas. Out of the six, patan, yajan, dhana, pratigraha. So patan, studying and preaching, the first two primary duties of the Brahmanas. Okay. Text number 43. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. So there's no purport also. I'm taking this from the Surrender Unto Me. A Kshatriya must have Ishwara Bhava. Ishwara Bhava means opulence and being, like a manager. the ability to control others, but he must use such power for the protection, not the exploitation of the citizens. Yeah, Ishvara Bhava means full of opulence, adoration, fame, and awe and reverence. This is the nature of the Kshatriya, controlling others in the sense of managing others, as it is mentioned here, not to be used for the exploitation, but for the protection. So that's the meaning of Kshatriya. Ksat means hurt, and Trayate means to protect. So to protect those who are hurt. In other words, not to giving harm, to protect the citizens, especially the citizens. So these are the qualities that should be possessed by the Kshatriyas: heroism, power, determination. So a Kshatriya will never lose his determination. He always feel like enthusiastic. Therefore, the Kshatriyas, they are influenced mostly by the modes of Rajogun. Resourcefulness, so resourcefulness such as wealth, armies, courage in battle. So the Kshatriya would prefer to die in the battlefield rather than to run away. Courage in battle. Generosity. So this is also the nature of the Kshatriya, being generous. Whatever people ask to the Kshatriya will immediately give without second thought sometimes. Just like in the incident when Arjuna came to the camp of Duryodhana, when Lord Krishna asked Arjuna to take the 5 arrows that Duryodhana was given by Bhishma. So Duryodhana welcomed Arjuna by saying, "Hey brother, how you doing? Please have a seat. What do you want? Please, whatever you want, I shall give. If you want the kingdom now, I can give, no problem." So this is the Kshatriya Bhav, because they want respect. They want respect, and and if we see also the story when Arjuna, Krishna, and Bhima approaching Jarasandha. Yeah, Jarasandha, because Jarasandha is Kshatriya. So at that time, Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima, they were disguising themselves as the Brahmanas. So the Kshatriya knows the etiquette that whenever a guest comes, especially Brahmana, so the Kshatriya should offer his best, to the best of his ability, to please his guests. So what Jarasandha said that, "My dear Brahmanas, whatever you desire, even if you desire my head, I shall chop off my head and give to you." But Krishna says, "No, no, no, no. We want simply a battle with you." So this is the nature of the Kshatriya: generous, and leadership. Text number 44. Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam Paricharyatmakam Karma Sudrashyapi Swabhavajam. So these are the qualities of the Vaishyas and also the Sudras. Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas. And for the Sudras, there is labor and service to others. So here, business business means trade. Trade, as Srila Prabhupada always mentioned, trade can take place when we have some excess. So first of all, we are cultivating our land and protecting the cows. That's mainly for our own maintenance. And if we have some excess, then we can do some trade, barter, do some trade. Not that we are producing something just for the purpose of selling it, but business here means trade. Vanijam means trade. And for the Sudras, there is labor and service to others. So Sudra, and Yeah, most of the population now in the Kali Yuga is Sudra. But then, if we analyze, actually having Sudra mentality, sometimes people think that, oh, I'm a Sudra, I'm low class of man and condemned in the society. No, actually, as long as Krishna consciousness, advancement in spiritual life, advancement in Krishna consciousness is concerned, those who have the mentality of a Sudra, they will advance the most. Because they have this service attitude, always eager to serve others, always eager to serve others, always eager to serve any devotees, any devotees. So those who are having this Sudra mentality, as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, they will be the most advanced person, very quick advance. Sometimes those who are having the Kshatriya Bhav, like temple managers, for example. Well, not all temple managers, but sometimes this has happened also. That, oh, I'm temple managers. Why I have to, you know, I have to serve the prasadam. I should stay in the line. The first one should be served. Sometimes, yeah. But if we see in the life of Jayananda Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada's disciple, who conducted the first Ratha Yatra in San Francisco. So he was a temple president. Those days he was temple president, and he was giving a lecture. I heard this story from one devotee. He was giving a class on the Sunday feast, and after the class, normally, as we have finally the feast, the prasadam feast, and then what he did, so he was washing the plate of the guests, because he was requesting, okay, you guests, you take prasadam and then just pile the plates there behind. And then after the feast, everybody left. So he was taking the service of washing the plate of all the guests, cleaning the remnants, whatever remnants, and then cleaning all the garbage. So he was such a very exemplary Vaishnava. So he has like this humility, being humble, or although he was the temple president, but he was taking this very menial service. Because sometimes even among the devotees also, everybody is wanting to be brahmanas. Uh, because brahmana is occupying the topmost position in the society. But as far as those who are in Krishna consciousness are concerned, so it doesn't matter whether we are brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, or even sudra, because we are engaging our activities in the service of the Lord. So that's actually become classless society. Therefore, if we are reading this, well, of course, His Holiness Bhakti Raghava Maharaj always recommend all of us, especially we in the VCO, to read this Srila Prabhupada's essays on Gita Nagari. So Srila Prabhupada was talking about the four waves of the ISKCON movement. Well, even at that time, he didn't go to America yet, but he was planning to have this. So he was talking about the four waves of this movement. And the fourth one is that classless society, referring to the Daiva Varnashram. Why it is mentioned classless? So these four classes, it is classes in the society, but why it is known as the classless? Because in the front of Krishna's eyes, all these are equal because they are engaging in Krishna service. Therefore, when we talk about Varnashram, we are not talking about mundane Varnashram. We are talking about Daivi Varnashram, that occupational duties which are engaged in Krishna's service. We connect everything to Krishna. So whether we are the temple pujari, the brahmana, whether we are the temple manager, the kshatriya, whether we are managing the temple treasurer, the Vaishya, or whether we are the sweeper in that temple, everything, all pleasing to Krishna, because everything is dedicated to Krishna's service. Text number 45. By following these qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. One can reach perfection by performing those prescribed duties Krishna mentioned in text 42 till text 44. In which way can one perform those duties to achieve this result? So the answer will be in the next sloka, in the next verse. Yeah. So basically, the whole uh, varnas, they are meant to please Lord Krishna. Samsiddhir haritosanam atapumbir prijashrista varnasram vibhagasah swanusthitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritosanam. So to please Lord Krishna, to please Lord Hari. Of course, in this section, Krishna is Krishna is simply talking about the varnas. Yeah? And what about the ashramas? The ashramas. So we will talk about the ashramas. So the four varnas and the four ashramas. So the four ashramas also meant to please Krishna because these are ashrams. Ashram means a sacred place, actually, a sacred place, a place where we can cultivate Krishna consciousness. This is ashram, like brahmachari ashram, grihastha ashram. Therefore, it is called ashram. It is the spiritual order in the society. So the varna is the social order, and the varnas is the spiritual order. So this is the answer, how it can be done. Text 46. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So the point here is that here, by worship of the Lord. So how that uh, our work can be perfected in terms of our varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudras, by connecting it to Krishna, by worship of the Lord. Yeah. A man can attain perfection through performing his own work. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, one should therefore know that as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one has his duty to render service unto the Supreme. Everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is recommended in this verse. So somehow or other, everybody actually is supposed to, because everybody is part and parcel of Krishna. So everybody is supposed to be engaged in full Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the last, what is that? Chatusloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, Etavadeva jigyasam tatva jigyashunatmanam anvaya vyatire kavyam yatsat sarvatra sarvadra. Yatsat sarvatra. Sarvatra means everybody, by all means. Sarvada. Sarvada means to worship. So etavad eva jigyasam. Those who are searching about the absolute truth, ultimately they have to come to Krishna consciousness, because yatsat sarvatra sarvada, because everybody meant to be Krishna's servant. So those who are really honest in their spiritual pursuit, in their inquiry about the absolute truth, ultimately they will end up in Krishna consciousness. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesh, Krishna, the master of the senses. And by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. So what is the perfection of life? When we surrender everything to Krishna. Yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasamat paraha ananye naiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate. So yetu sarvani karmani. Sarvani karmani. When we dedicate all our works, our activities to Krishna. Yetu sarvani, sarvani karmani, all works. Yetu sarvani karmani, mayi sannyasa, mat paraha. So sannyasa means to giving up, to renounce, renounce everything, renounce everything. Uh, just for the pleasure of Krishna. Renounce the what do you say this? The result of our activities, and offer it for Krishna. Mayi sarva, mayi shanyasa mat paraha, mat paraha. Mam dhyayanta upasati. And always think about Krishna, meditate upon Krishna. As Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, everyone should think that he is engaged in particular type of occupation by Hrishikesha. So whatever we are doing, we should have the consciousness that I'm doing this ultimately for Krishna. Mam dhyayanta. So actually in that way we can be engaged in thinking about Krishna all the time when we have the right consciousness. Mam dhyayanta upasate tesam aham samudartam rityu samsara sagarat bhavamina chirat pata maya veshita cherasham. And what is the result when we dedicate everything in Krishna's service? Tesam aham samudartam rityu samsara. So Krishna promised that he will prepare a nice boat for us to cross the oceans of material existence. So that's the guarantee that Krishna gives. Mrityu samsara sagar, samsara sagar. So this material world is samsara sagar, the ocean of the repetition of birth and death. So ultimately, this verse is about karma yoga, yat karosi yat asnasi. Dedicate everything to Krishna. Whatever we eat, whatever we do, whatever charity that we perform, just do it for Krishna. Yeah, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, worshipping Krishna by one's own prescribed work, offering it to him while thinking within one's mind, may my Lord be pleased by this work. One attains to the perfection of real knowledge. Yeah, simply by having this mentality, okay, may Krishna is pleased with this service. Text number 47. This is also repeating the same verse that Krishna mentioned in the 3rd chapter. Sreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat swanustitan swabhava niyatam karma kurvan apnoti kilmsam. In the 3rd chapter, Krishna mentioned also this. Sreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat swanustitan swabhava nidhanam sreyam paradharmo bhaya vahaha. So Krishna mentioned that in the 3rd chapter. So this is the 18th chapter. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reaction. So here Krishna mentioned that Swabhava niyatam karma kurvan apnokti kilbisham. So duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. But in the third chapter, Krishna mentioned that Swabhavam Nidhanam Sreyam Paradharma Bhayavahaha. Krishna says to Arjuna that by performing, because others' occupation are full of dangers, therefore better to perform our own prescribed duties. And Krishna here explained again to Arjuna that by performing one's own duties, that one's own duties will not be affected by sinful reactions. In this way, one should work according to his own nature. No work is abominable if performed in the service of the Lord, of the Supreme Lord. Yeah, Prabhupada mentioned no work is abominable. Of course, Srila Prabhupada in his purport, the purport quite lengthy. The purport Srila Prabhupada mentioned that just like the Brahmanas, sometimes the Brahmanas, they sacrifice the animal, so killing is involved. And also the Kshatriyas, like violence, war, violence, killing, and politic, dirty things is involved. And then the Vaishyas, lying is involved. How the Vaishyas lying? Like this. Oh, because you are my friend, this is only cost this much. I don't take any profit from you because you are my friend. Take it with such and such price. So Prabhupada said that never trust that this Vaishya, this person is honest. Because without cheating, without lying, how the Vaishyas can get profit and maintain their lives. So this is actually the classic, uh, what do you say, this flattery words by the Vaishyas. Oh, you are my regular customer, you are my friends. I don't take any profit. Even if I take it very, little margin from this. You are my friend, take it with such a price. Actually, you already get the double, double amount of the original price. So this is Vaishyas. And Sudras, of course, like cleaning, this and that. So, but still, there's no work is abominable if it is performed in the service of the Lord. Yeah, this is the key word here, that everything should be engaged, should be, the result should be offered to Krishna. In the third chapter, this matter has been clearly and elaborately explained. Every man should work for the purpose of yajna or for Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anything done for personal sense gratification is a cause of bondage. The conclusion is that everyone should be engaged according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada mentioned here in the third chapter, this matter had been clearly and elaborately explained. Anybody remember which verse is Srila Prabhupada referring from the third chapter? Anybody? Amongst all these elevated souls would like to give some comment.
Can you repeat, Prabhu?
Yeah, sorry. Srila Prabhupada mentioned here in the third chapter, these matters have been clearly and elaborately explained. Every man should work for the purpose of yajna or Vishnu. Which verse Srila Prabhupada is referring?
Yagyartat karmano nyatra.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. So yagyartat karmano nyatra.
Lokoyam karma bandhana.
Lokoyam karma bandhana. And then?
I forget.
Lokoyam karma bandhana. Tad artham.
Karma kaunteya.
Then?
Mukta sangha prajara. Lokayam karma bandhana. Mukta sangha param vrajet.
Mukta sangha samachara.
Samachara. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mukta sangha samachara. Another verse is mentioning Mukta sangha param vrajet. What is that? Mukta Sangha Param Rajat. This is the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mukta Sangha Param Rajat. The verse, what is that? Khalev dosa nide rajan asti heko mahan guna kirtanat eva krishnasya mukta sangha param rajat. But no problem.
I make sure Bhagavat on Bhagavad Gita.
Mukta Sangha Samachara and Mukta
Samaj.
Sangha Param Rajat. Ultimately, they are the same because
Yeah.
Param Rajat means the highest destination, and this also will bring us to highest destination. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so that verse, that's Srila Prabhupada referring here. Thank you. Okay, so ultimately, the conclusion is that you see this arrow. Yeah, all the varnas and ashram centered into Krishna. So Krishna is in the center of all our works, whether we are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, or Sudras, just Yagya tat karmanon yatra. Because Yagya, another name of Lord Vishnu, is Yagya. Yagya hi Vishnu. Yagya why hi Vishnu. So Yagya is Lord Vishnu. Krishna also mentioned in the last verse of the 5th chapter, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasham. So Krishna is the benefactor of all yagya, sacrifice. Okay. Text number 48. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. Just like here, Arjuna, he is trying to give up his prescribed duty to fight on behalf of Krishna, actually, because Krishna ordered him to fight to establish the religious principle. So he's thinking that, oh, this is abominable because Guru Nahatva Himahanubhava Sriyo Bhoktum Vaikshamapi Haloke. Better I go to the forest. After all, if they are wanting this kingdom, so let them take the kingdom. Guru Ahatva Himahanubhava. Ultimately, they are our gurus, our senior. That was Arjuna's thought. But Krishna mentioned here that even if such work is full of fault, don't give up. Somehow or other, we are in the material world. It's already contaminated by the 3 modes of material nature. All works, just like fire, is covered by smoke. But still, because even the smoke is there, because we need fire, so we have to tolerate the smoke. Just like Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, he mentioned that just like in the winter, we need to warm up our body using fire. So sometimes, because of the smoke, our eyes will get hurt by the smoke. But still, because the fire is beneficial to warm up the body, so we use the fire. So similarly, in performing our prescribed duties, in the case of Arjuna, he's Kshatriya, so he's gonna kill all his relatives, his uncle, his spirit, his teacher, grandfather. But because that is his duty, prescribed duties as Kshatriya, and Arjuna cannot say that I'm not a Kshatriya because he proved himself before the battle that he is a great Kshatriya. Now forcefully he wants to give up his prescribed duty. So this is condemned by Krishna here. If one prefers to give up the work of a Kshatriya and take up the occupation of a Brahmana, he is not assured that in the occupation of a Brahmana there are no unpleasant duties. Arjuna is thinking that if I give up my prescribed duties as Kshatriya and I want to become sannyas or a beggar, there will be no disturbance in my life, no unpleasant thing. Well, somehow or other, there is always something unpleasant in life, just like the grihastas thinking that, oh, if I remain brahmachari, maybe there is no problem in life. Well, no, just day before yesterday, one brahmachari said, I can't stay brahmachari anymore. I can't tolerate these miseries anymore. I said, what miseries? You think that by entering Grihastha ashram you will be happy? I said like that. He said that, but Prabhu, I'm so suffering as brahmachari. Why you are suffering as brahmachari? I said, well, yeah, because look at my life, I don't have uh, good engagement, fixed service like this in the temple. I said, so you go on and find some good service. But he said that, but my nature, I love to make video. I like to do some video editings. I love uh, to be, live in the opulence. So he said that he can't live with a shared small room with others. So I said that is not a brahmachari nature. Brahmachari means you have to be austere, eat simply. But he said that I'm tired with all this stuff every day, rice, dal, sabji. So yeah, what can I say? But I told him that there's no guarantee that when you change your ashram, you will be free from miseries. Anyway, miseries will come to life. Some unpleasant things will come always. Kalena sarvatra gambira hasa. What is that? Yeah. Dukavad anyata sukha. Kalena sarvatra gambira hasa. So the miseries will come by the due course of times. So like that also the happiness will come by the due course of times. But if we are not fitting, our guna and karma is not fitting in some varna or some ashramas, so we have to clearly understand and be honest that, oh yeah, I my nature is not to be a celibate brahmachari. So carry on with grihastha ashram. One may then conclude, Srila Prabhupada continue, one may then conclude that in the material world, no one can be completely free from contamination of material nature. So somehow or other, the three modes of material nature will influence our work, our mentality. They're always competing, these three modes, as we discussed in the 14th chapter. One should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. That is the perfection, the perfectional point. So somehow or other, everything is contaminated by the three modes of material nature. But if we engage those activities or whatever we have in Krishna consciousness, then that will become perfect. That will become perfect. Just like Srila Prabhupada in the introduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, he quoted a verse, Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratislokam abadavatyati namanyanantasya yasho nikitanya srinvanti gayanti grinanti saravaha. I think it is in the introduction or the preface of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada quoted a verse mentioning that sometimes people are criticizing the Srimad Bhagavatam because the narration, the story in the Srimad Bhagavatam is not chronological. If we see, like, sometimes the story is just jumping from one story and immediately to another story. This is how the Srimad Bhagavatam goes. Just like in the life of Britasura in the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Britasura first explained, and then after that, the life of Chitraketu. So it is going reverse, going backward. First, actually, Chitraketu, and then he got cursed, and then later on he became Britasura. But the Srimad Bhagavatam just goes like this, sometimes jumping in the front and then go backward like this. But Tadvag Visargo Janata Gaviplavo Yasmin Prati Slokam. But this literature, seemingly having some defects, actually there is no defect at all. And yet Even pratishlokam, a little fraction of the verse, can change the heart of the people. Pratishlokam abhadavati namani anantasya yaso nikitanya. Because this creation is full of namani, the glorification of Krishna's name. Namani anantasya yasho. Yasa means glorification. Full of Krishna's name, Krishna's glorification, Krishna's pastimes. Srinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti, Sadavaha. So those who are hearing it, Srinvanti, Gayanti, those who are chanting it, Grinanti, those who are taking it, hearing, chanting it, or accepting the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sadavaha. He will become sadhu, he will become purified. So the point here is that because the Srimad Bhagavatam contains Krishna's name, that means connected to Krishna. This book, this literature is connected to Krishna. Therefore, it is perfect creation. So similarly, our work may have some fault because anyway, this material world is faulty. Kaler dosa nide rajan, especially in the age of Kali. Kaler dosa nide rajan. It's full of dosha nide. Dosha nide means full of faults. But connected to Krishna, that is the perfectional point, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here in his purport. Yeah. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the results of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self-realization. So self-realization means when we see ourselves within. That means we understand clearly that we are the spirit soul. But perfect in seeing means not only seeing ourselves as the spirit soul, but we see ourselves as the part and parcel of Krishna, as Krishna's eternal servant. That's called complete self-realization. As I keep mentioning in the previous classes, that there are two stages of self-realization. Now, who still remember these two levels of self-realization? Would like to hear now. Is there some Panditjis amongst this assembly who would like to tell me what are those two levels of self-realization? Or I just call somebody from this assembly. Okay, let's call upon His Grace Somaka Prabhu. You can unmute yourself, Somaka Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so the two modes of self-realization, or three modes instead. I'm not sure I got it right.
Okay, whatever you know, you can tell us.
So there are different levels of perceiving God, of course, and
Oh,
from
no.
level,
Wait,
not
wait.
that one. So
Yeah. Wait a
I
second.
got confused.
Yeah, the one that you are talking about, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These are the three levels of Brahman realization. But
Yes,
yeah, I'm asking about two levels of self-realization.
I'm not sure. Maybe.
Okay, I mentioned this many times. It's okay. What about other devotees? What are those two levels of self-realization?
Confidential and most confidential is that one? No.
So what is that about, Kumudaksa Prabhu?
About the what is that? Confidential knowledge, and then the most confidential. I don't know. Maybe it's not that one. I can.
Still looking for someone else. Let's churn the butter and make the ghee. Okay, what about who is not speaking yet here? What about Gunavatar Prabhu? Is he there? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can you
I'm not
please repeat
sure clear,
one more
but
time the question?
I used to heard like Dira. Is it Dira one of them who understand that we are spirit soul,
Mm-hmm.
and Sanyasa, one who attached with detached with this material world. But I heard one more like devotee is on the top class because he understand that he is spirit soul and the servant of Krishna.
Mm.
But this one is three. I don't know what to do.
Okay. Actually, you gave the gist. Yeah. We see Srila Prabhupada's purport here. Thank you very much, Gunavatar Prabhu. When the result of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self-realization. So in the previous classes, many times I touched that there are two levels of self-realization. The first level is that when we understand that we are the spirit souls, we are not the body. So this is half of the self-realization. And this is mostly known by the Mayavadis. This is the conclusion of the Mayavadis philosophy, that we are not the body, we are the spirit soul. That's it. But in Krishna consciousness, we have a higher level of self-realization, not only knowing that we are the spirit soul, but also understanding that we are the servant of Krishna. So that's the second level of self-realization. So understanding means also acting in serving Krishna. So the first level is understanding that we are not the body, we are the soul. The second one is that understanding our sambandha with Krishna. That means understanding that we are Krishna's servant and meant to serve Krishna, and we are serving Krishna. So the Mayavadis, they are um, having some self-realization, but that is only half knowledge. It is half knowledge. It is not perfect. Therefore, because of that conclusion, they merge into Brahman and come back again. But for the devotee, self-realization means we understand we are not the body, we are the spirit soul, and we understand that our constitutional position as Krishna's servant. Therefore, upon leaving the body, we will not come back again to the material world, because we enter into the kingdom of God, into the palace of God. Yeah, that's two levels of self-realization. The Mayavadis, they know only half. Therefore, whatever is done, if it is not 100%, it is not completely successful. Okay. Text number 49 to 55. So that was the first part of our discussion. And then the second part is that from Jnana Yoga to pure devotional service. So this is the transition from reaction-free works, from Niskama Karma Yoga to Jnana Yoga, and to Brahman platform, and then ultimately to pure devotional service. Text number 49. One who is self-controlled and unattached, and who disregards all material enjoyments, can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. So this is describing about sannyas. What is sannyas? Real renunciation means that one should always think himself part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore think that he has no right to enjoy the result of his work. Bhaktaram Yagyatapasam, come back to that verse again. That everything, Krishna is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, result of work. Since he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the result of his work must be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. This is actually Krishna consciousness. So, in one way, therefore, Srila Prabhupada mentioned Karma Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, or Krishna consciousness. Because the real Karma Yoga means Krishna consciousness. The real Karma Yoga means when we surrender the result of our activities for Krishna. So that is Karma Yoga. Opposed to that is Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda means when we wanting something out of our religious activities. We want elevation to the higher planetary systems, for example, to enjoy more sense gratification. This is called Karma Kanda. Yeah. A sannyasi is supposed to be free from reaction of his past activities, but a person in Krishna consciousness automatically attains this perfection without even accepting the so-called order of renunciation. This state of mind is called Yogarudha, or perfectional stage of yoga. So the main point here is that engaging ourselves in Krishna consciousness. That's it. So from A to Z, our today's discussion is just engaging ourselves in Krishna consciousness, whether we are sannyas or whether we are grihastha. As Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, that we can be free from our karmic reaction, provided that just engage in Krishna consciousness. No need to take a renounced order of life or sannyas order of life. Simply being in grihastha ashram, but remain engaged in Krishna consciousness, that's actually the perfectional stage of life. Yeah. Because the purpose of sannyas ashram is to renounce the world and attaching ourselves to Krishna. But it is possible also while being in family life and family affairs, at the same time engaging ourselves, engaging our family members in Krishna consciousness. So that is one thing. And that is called Yogarudha, or perfectional stage of yoga. Yoginam api sarvesam madgate nantar atmanam sradhavan bhajate yomam samyukta tamamata. So sradhavan, with full sraddha, with full faith, bhajate, we are worshipping Krishna. Yoginam api sarvesam madgate nantar atmanam. So those who are worshipping Krishna, remembering Krishna with full faith, he's the topmost yoga amongst the yoga. He's the topmost yogi among all types of yogis. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. Grihetako, vanetako, sadahari bulonako. So whether we are in a grihastha ashram, grihetako, vanetako, in sannyas ashram, vanaprastha ashram, sadahari bulonako, suke duke bulonako, radhamadhavanam bolore. Whether we are happy or distressed, just chant the name of Radha Madhava. Yeah. Lord Shiva also tells Parvati in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the sixth canto, he mentioned, Grihesu Visatam Chapi, Grihesu Visatam Chapi, Pumsa Kusala Karmana, Madvartaya Tayamanam, Na Bhandaya Griha Mataha. So na bhandaya means not bound. Those grihasthas are not bound by the karmic reaction, by the result of their works. What is the secret here? Grihesu visatam chapi pumsa kusala karmana. Pumsa kusala karmana. Madvarta yata yamana. So by engaging those activities, the result in Krishna consciousness. So na bhandaya grihamata, although he is in householder life, he is not bound. Because the principle here is that as long as we connect everything to Krishna, that's it. That's the main principle here. As long as we connect everything to Krishna, we will not be bound by our karmic reaction. But when we have a slight, a tinge desire to enjoy the result of our own activities, that's how we get bound. So Krishna consciousness is a matter of liberating ourselves. Liberating ourselves means liberating ourselves from ignorance, liberating ourselves from material bondage. Yeah, that's Krishna consciousness. That's the byproduct of Krishna consciousness. Yastvindra gopa atavendra aho swakarma bhanda nurupa. So bhanda nurupa palabhajanam atanoti. So whether we are Indra, the king of heaven, or Indra Gopa, the smallest insect, we are influenced, we are controlled by modes of material nature, and we have to undergo our karmic reactions. We have to undergo the result of our previous activities, karma. Karma nubhan, what is that? Yastvindra Gopa Adavendra Aho Swakarma Bhanda, Karma, Bhanda. We are bound by karma. Bandha Nurupa Bhajanam Atanoti. Karmani Nirdahati. But Karmani Nirdahati. But this karma, we can be free from this karma by Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajam. Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajam. By engaging ourselves in bhakti, bhaja, worshipping. Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Yeah, that's Lord Brahma's prayer. Okay, text number 50. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize. The Lord described for Arjuna how one can achieve the highest perfectional stage simply by being engaged in his occupational duty, performing that duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One attains the supreme stage of Brahman simply by renouncing the result of his work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. That is the process of self-realization. Self-realization, complete self-realization when we attain Krishna Bhakti, when we engage in Krishna service. The actual perfection of knowledge is attaining pure Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So for the Mayavadis, the Brahman realization is the topmost self-realization for them. Understanding that Aham Brahmasmi, I am not the body, as I mentioned earlier. That is the topmost perfectional stage of their self-realization. But as long as devotees are concerned, and it is the fact that complete self-realization means when we attain pure Krishna consciousness, or at least starting to engage in Krishna consciousness. So we are going to that, we are pursuing to that perfectional stage. Now we may not be completely perfect, we not be completely perfect, but as Srila Prabhupada mentioned that we cannot judge a person is dirty while he's under the shower. Okay. So while somebody is, taking bath under the shower, we cannot say that, oh, he is dirty. Well, because soon, Ksipram Bhavati Dharmatma Saswa Chantim Nigachati. Because very soon he will be established in his original position of being clean man. because he's under the shower. Yeah. Sipram Bhavati. Therefore, after that, that verse in the 9th chapter, where Krishna mentioned, what is that? Apichat Suduracharo Bhajante Mamana Yabha. That verse, Krishna mentioned that even if one is, if somehow or other we see one is engaged in abominable action, but at the same time he is engaging in himself in Krishna consciousness, so he should be considered as sadhu. Still, he is a sadhu. Apichat Suduracharo Bhajante Mam Ananyabhak. Sadur Eva Samanta Vyag Samyak Vyavasito Hisa. So Sadur Eva. He's still a devotee. He's still, whether he's nice devotee, he's not nice devotee. Well, he's a devotee. Because after all, Sipram Bhavati Dharmatma. Very soon, the next verse Krishna mentioned, very soon he will be established in his original good position as nice devotee. So yeah, that's the perfectional stage of self-realization. So this is the description that Krishna promised to Arjuna in the previous chapter. In the previous verse. Text 51 to 53. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. Wow, this is a lot of things. This is a lot of things that Krishna mentioned. So if we see one by one, being purified by his intelligence, controlling the mind with determination. That means because the mind, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, Pramati Balavadridam Tashyaham Nigraham Manye Vayuriva Suduskaram. Arjuna mentioned that controlling the wind is much more easier for me than controlling the mind, because Arjuna, he has an arrow by which he can control the rain, control the wind, like this. So controlling the wind for Arjuna is much easier than controlling the mind. But if we purify our intelligence and our mind by engaging the mind, Savai Mana Krishna, Padara Vindaya, thinking about Krishna, Man Mana Bhava Mad Bhakta, thinking about Krishna with determination, Utsahan, Sahan, Chayadharya. So that's how we purify the mind and intelligence. Giving up the object of sense gratification. Well, of course, this is one of the big challenges in our Krishna consciousness practice, giving up the objects of sense gratification. Of course, the method is by experiencing the higher taste. What is that verse in the 2nd chapter? Visaya vinivartante nirahara shadehina rasavarjam rasopyasa. So rasavarjam rasopyasa. The taste of enjoying sense gratification is very strong, but even then, visaya means material desire. Even that taste, because that taste still there, but we shouldn't be disturbed. Shouldn't be disturbed by engaging ourselves in Krishna consciousness. Rasavarjam rasopyasam param drishtva nivartante. So we will be naturally giving up the lower taste of enjoyment because we get the higher taste of enjoyment, which is Krishna consciousness, enjoyment, bliss, spiritual happiness. This is called Brahma Saukyam. Brahma Saukyam Tonantam. It is not flickering happiness, but it is to Anantam. It is everlasting happiness. described by Rishabhadev in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Being freed from attachment and hatred. So, sama dukkha sukham dhiram sumritatvaya kalpate. Sama being equal. So we don't attach or hate something, just remain equal. One who lives in secluded place, secluded place. This is the meaning of this is that living in the always in the association of the devotees. That is called secluded place. Not necessarily to go to the forest and live alone. That is not advised. But secluded place means we are avoiding the association of the non-devotees who eat little. Eat little here means eat simply to maintain the body and soul together, not overeating. Atyahara, not atyahara. So eat whatever needed for the body. And eat only Krishna Prasada. Who controls his body, mind, and power of speech. Yeah. In the which chapter is that? I think in the 17th chapter, we're discussing about the austerities, type of austerities on the bodily level, mind, and power of speech. Yeah. What is that? Swadhyaya Vyashanam Chaiva Vanmaya Tapa Uchyate. So this is the tapasya for the speech. Anudvega Karam Vakyam Satyam Priya Hitam Chayat Swadhyaya Vyashanam Chaiva Vanmaya Tapa Uchyate. So speak should be truthful and should not be agitating for others. Studying the Vedas, Swadhyaya Vyashanam, studying the Vedas. This is how we control our speech, always talking about Krishna. Otherwise, it is simply Jihva Sati, Srimad Bhagavatam, and describe that the tongue which is not used in Krishna service to glorify Krishna, it is simply Jihva Asati, means this tongue is as good as the croaking of the frog inviting death. Jiva Sati. So that tongue which is not engaged in glorifying Krishna will lead us to the hell. Therefore it is called Jiva Sati. Who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego. Yeah. Upadi means false ego, false designation. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam. Tat parat vena nirmalam rijikena rijikesa sevanam bhakti ruchyate. So when we engage in Krishna service, automatically we'll be free from false ego. And the biggest false ego is that when we are thinking that I am the product of this material nature, which is the body. Yeah. False strength, false pride. Trinadapi Sunichena. We have to learn this last, how to control last. Tadara Jastamo Bhava Kamado Badaya Chaye. Cheta etair anavidham stitam satve prasidati. So this last and anger, they are arising because of the modes of Rajogun. Tada rajas tamo bhava. Kama, lobha, daya chai. So kama and greed also mentioned in that verse. By hearing Krishna Katha, will be situated in goodness. Kamalobadaya Cheta etair anavidam stitam satve prasidati. Will be situated in the mode of goodness and will be peaceful, happy. Free from false proprietorships. Yeah. Ahammameti, yamahammameti. This is false proprietorship. This is about me and about mine. My house, my mind. And peaceful. Santi. How to be peaceful? Come back to the 5.29. Taram yagyata vasam. So ridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam santim richati. Gyatva mam santim richati. So that's how we become peaceful. because Srila Prabhupada explained that it is impossible to be happy without being peaceful. So if our life is full of disturbances, how we will be happy? So first, we should be peaceful, then we'll be happy. Yeah. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. Yeah. So as we are one by one analyzing all these items mentioned in these 4 verses, ultimately everything can be achieved by devotional service. Yeah, quite lengthy purport. I put here almost all the purport because it is very condensed. So if you realize that sometimes, like in the previous slides, I just put some part of Srila Prabhupada's purport, but this is like almost all the purport. I just want to read this. I thought that maybe I shouldn't put this much in the screen because, while giving presentation, sometimes it's too boring when there are too much writings. But I don't know. I put all this because I feel this is very condensed. Srila Prabhupada put all his words here very nicely. Just one. When one is purified by intelligence, he keeps himself in the mode of goodness. Thus, one becomes the controller of the mind and is always in trance. He is not attached to the object. Let me finish. He is not attached to the object of sense gratification and is free from attachment and hatred in his activities. Such a detached person naturally prefers to live in a secluded place. He does not eat more than what he requires, and he controls the activities of his body and mind. He has no false ego because he does not accept the body as himself. Nor has he a desire to make body fat and strong by accepting so many material things. Because he has no bodily concept of life, he is not falsely proud. He is satisfied with everything that is offered to him by the grace of the Lord. This is called simplicity. He's just satisfied with whatever comes by Krishna's arrangement. And he is never angry in the absence of sense gratification, nor does he endeavor to acquire sense objects. Thus, when he is completely free from false ego, he becomes non-attached to all material things, and that is the stage of self-realization of Brahman. That stage is called the Brahma Bhuta stage. When one is free from the material conception of life, he becomes peaceful and cannot be agitated. Of course, Srila Prabhupada continue in his purport, the verse from 2nd chapter. Apuriyamana machala pratistam samudrama pravisantiyad. But you can read in your own time. The verse explaining that just like there are thousands of rivers, streams flowing to the ocean, but the ocean remains still in its position. So similarly, sometimes material desire fluctuated within our heart, so we just ignore it. Be peaceful, be santi, remain engaged in Krishna consciousness. The moment we pay attention to that desire, then we get trouble, very serious trouble. Yeah. Okay, 2 more verses. Text number 54, the continuation of that self-realization. So Brahma Bhuta is self-realization, the stage of self-realization. But higher to that, we will see the Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. So after becoming Brahman realized, so we have to engage in Krishna service. Then it is perfect. Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma Na Sochati Na Kangsati Sama Sarve Subhutesu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity, and in that state he attains the pure devotional service unto me. Many times we hear that bhakti started once we get liberation. Yeah, bhakti, real bhakti started when after liberation. Liberation means liberation from material bondage. So if we analyze this verse, that a person who is traded in a transcendental platform, who realizes the Supreme Brahman, not only the um, Brahman feature, but the Supreme Brahman means the Bhagavan feature. So he will become fully joyful. Prasanna Atma, he will become fully joyful because he knows that, ultimately I'm not the body and Krishna is the object of worship. So he will become Prasanna Atma like Prahlad Maharaj, always peaceful. He never laments or desire to have anything. So lamentation arises from the influence of the modes of ignorance, and desire or lust is arising from the modes of passion. So, but those who are situated in a transcendental platform, that means he transcends the modes of material nature, especially the lower modes of material nature, rajas and tamas. Therefore, he never laments or desire anything. Lamentation normally comes when we lose something. First, we have something and then we lose it. We lament. Or when we desire something and we cannot achieve it. So we also lament. So we are lamenting because of that. Desire comes because of mode of passion. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. Vidya Vinaya Sampani, the 5th chapter, describing about this, that we see all living entity equally because ultimately we see the soul and the Paramatma in every being. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So this is the continuation after liberation. We have to engage in devotional service. So this is the favorable platform, favorable platform to be engaged in devotional service when we have all these qualities. We don't complain. The moment that we stop complaining and accepting, okay, it's Krishna's arrangement. I get what I deserve. So in that state, actually, we can advance in Krishna consciousness very rapidly. But when we complain, oh, why I have to clean this floor, or why I have to wash this dish, why he doesn't ask somebody else, why I have to go to market, then yes, we engage in Krishna service, but still with grudge. So Krishna is not very pleased with that. But the moment we think that, okay, whatever service I get, ultimately is pleasing Krishna. Okay, do it. Yeah. Purport. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Buddha stage, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. Yeah, as I explained, as I mentioned earlier, that this is the conclusion of the Mayavadi, the impersonalist, to merge. Yes, it is self-realization. Aham Brahmasmi is self-realization, but it's just half self-realization. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further. So after 50%, go more, go forward. To become engaged in pure devotional service, then that's become 100%. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in the state of liberation called Brahmabhuta. Yeah. So what we understand from this purport is that those who are engaged in devotional service, he is already liberated. Come back to that verse again. Karmana manasagira nikila swapyavastasu jivan mukta sauchate. So jivan mukta sauchate, he is already liberated. Ihayasya harir dasya, engaging himself in devotional service to Krishna. But it's always good as sadhakas, it's always good to think that I'm not at all liberated yet. I'm engaging in service, in some service, but let's consider ourselves in this stage that I'm fallen, I'm not liberated yet. So in that way, actually, we will remain humble servant of the Lord. Yeah. Although the fact is, as soon as you engage in Krishna service, you are liberated. But as sadhakas, it's always good. It's always good that we are thinking that, oh, I'm still having a lot of bad qualities, having a lot of attachment, material desire. So I'm trying. Therefore, many times we hear this statement, I'm just trying to be devoted. And that should be very genuine. That way, Krishna will help us. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is miseries. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Yeah. Who is there? There's some question. Panamali Prabhu? Or just by chance unmute himself. So, yeah, in Krishna consciousness, there's no lamentation, there's no material desire. That's when we obtain pure devotional service. But if we see the Vaishnava Bhajan, the Vaishnava Bhajan compiled by Achyutananda Swami, the one that we have. If we see the song of the Acharyas, especially Narottam Das Thakur's song, they are full of lamentation. But this type of lamentation is spiritual lamentation. So Srila Prabhupada is talking about material lamentation here. Just like in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see also Prahlad Maharaj is lamenting. Soche tato vimukache tasa indriyat. So socha means lamentation. But this verse is telling about na sochati, na kamsati, na sochati, no lamentation. But Prahlad Maharaj said, Soche tato, but I am lamenting. Why is lamenting? Vimukache tasa indriyata maya sukaya bharam udvahato vimudhan. He is lamenting to see all these fools and rascals simply engaging in sense gratification. Indriya artha, collecting more artha, more wealth for gratifying the senses. Indriya artha, maya sukaya, they are engaging themselves in maya sukha, a flickering false happiness. Material happiness is called maya sukhaya. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj is lamenting. So this this verse, this mentality of the devotees lamenting is completely transcendental. And this kind of lamentation is actually bringing them closer to Krishna. Because this type of lamentation is the manifestation of their compassion toward other living entities. Just like that song. What is that? Manusha janama paya Radha Krishna na bhajiya janiya shuniya vishakainu pai. So after achieving the human form of life, Manusha janama paya, Radha Krishna na bhajya. Still, I'm not engaged in the service of Radha and Krishna. Janiya, Suniya. I heard this. Janiya, Janiya, I know this. Suniya, I have heard this. That material enjoyment is poison. Bisa, bisa means poison. Janiya, Suniya, bisa kainu upai. But still, after knowing it, after hearing it, still I'm drinking this poison. Alas, alas. So this kind of lamentation is spiritual lamentation. This is the Brahma Buddha stage, and this is and this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that state of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. So for the devotees, merging merging into Brahman is hellish. Or the idea of attaining heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria. So for the materialist, obtaining heaven is their goal. Okay? For the impersonalists, for the Mayavadis, merging into Brahman is their goal. But for the devotees, we are not at all interested with heaven or merging into Brahman. Yeah. And the senses are like serpents whose poison teeth are broken. So for the devotees, the senses can be controlled. Pure devotees, yeah, they can control their senses. So the senses is like a venomous snake, very poisonous, very dangerous. But as far as pure devotees are concerned, we can control the senses. So it's compared just like the serpents without fangs. So the teeth are broken, so it's not dangerous. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or the spiritual world. Narayana Parasarve Na Kutaschana Vivyati Swarga Pavarga Narakesu Apitulya Tadarsina. So for the devotees, wherever he is fine. Swarga, Pavarga, Narakesu. Whether he is in the heaven, whether he is in the Vaikuntha, whether he is in the hell, Apitulyartha Darsina. This is only Krishna everywhere. Of course, this is the vision of the Uttamadhikari. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, the material world is as good as Vaikuntha because he sees only Krishna and engage in Krishna's service. So this is the spirit of Vaikuntha, spiritual world. Because nobody in Vaikuntha is not engaging himself in Krishna service. Everybody somehow or other engaging himself in Krishna service. Just like there is a narration of Narada Muni before he gets the Maha Maha from Lakshmi Devi. So it is described that Narada Muni approaching Lakshmi Devi, which who actually has been told by Lord Narayan that nobody should take my remnant except you, O Lakshmi Devi. And Lakshmi Devi said yes. But then Narada Muni insisted to get that Maha Maha from Lord Vishnu. And then, of course, before that, Narada Muni, he came to Vaikuntha and he was sweeping the floor. As we know that it is Chintamani. There is no dust, there is no dirt in Vaikuntha. But yet Narada Muni was sweeping the floor for 12,000, for 12 years. For 12 years, Narada Muni was sweeping. And Lakshmi Devi said, okay, Narada Muni, I know you want something. That's why you are doing this service for a long time. Now please tell me, whatever you want, any boon, I shall grant you. And Narada Muni said, aha, now I get it. I want Maha Maha from Lord Vishnu. But Lakshmi Devi said, but I promised that I will not give anybody. Lord Vishnu told me this. And he said, you said whatever I asked. I've been serving here for 12 years, sweeping the floor. Although the floor is clean, he's keeps sweeping the floor. So he's playing a trick here. So in the spiritual world, everybody is engaged. Somehow or other, they find some engagement in the heavenly planet. Okay, if I continue that story, we're not going to finish today. This is the last one. Bhaktya mama pijanati yavanya chasmi tatvataha tato mam tadvatu gyatva visatita dhananta. One can understand me as I am, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service, and one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion. He can enter into the kingdom of God. Visate means entering. Of course, the Acharya like Srila Viswana Chakravarti Thakur emphasize so much on this Visate, because the Mayavadi, they are thinking Visate means merging. Entering means merging with the Lord. But entering here means, just Prabhupada explained in his purport, just like a green bird entering into a green tree does not mean that the green bird becomes one with the tree. In one sense, he is become one, but he remain keeping his individuality, keeping his identity as the green bird. So that's our philosophy. Green bird enter into a green tree. But the Mayavadi, they argued that just like the river entering into the ocean and merge into one. But our Acharya, Vishwana Chakravarti Thakur, break that argument by saying that, well, if you see just the surface of the surface, not service, just the surface of the ocean, you just see only water. But if you go deep, you will see a lot of varieties, a lot of aquatics. So that's the devotees. When we merge, we become fish and go down. The fish and the ocean becomes one, they merge, but the fish keeping its identity and seeing all the beauty within the ocean, because the devotees will go deeper into Krishna consciousness philosophy. Rather, the Mayavadi, they just, seeing the surface of the ocean. Therefore, considering that it's just one, we merge. Yeah, this is here. Prabhupada also mentioned here, Visate means that one can enter into the abode of the Lord in one's individuality. And what is the purpose? To engage in his association and render service for him. Yeah, just like a green bird enter into a green tree. Okay. So that's this verse is explaining about the eligibility, how to understand Krishna, how to understand the absolute truth, the Supreme Brahman, Lord Krishna, by devotional service. Last slide. You can see God or Krishna when you have developed love for him. Otherwise, you cannot see. You see? The Mayavadis, they can see only the water, only the surface of the ocean. But they don't see the real ocean. So when we talk about the ocean, if you want to know the real fact about the ocean, go deeper. Go deeper to the ocean. Don't see only the surface of the ocean. So the devotees will go deeper and understand and see how beautiful Krishna is. But the Mayavadi can see only the effulgence of Krishna. This is the formula. So love or bhakti is the formula by which we can understand Krishna, by which we can see God. You have to develop this practice how to see God. But in this Kali Yuga, if you simply chant Hare Krishna mantra, then you become perfect. Is it very difficult? Chant Hare Krishna and you become perfect? Because we know that bhakti will start as soon as one chants the holy name. Yeah. Etavadeva lokesmin pumsam dharma parasmrita. Bhakti yogo bhagavati tanama grahana adivihi. So bhakti yogo bhagavati. Bhakti start when Tannama grahana. Grahana means we accept Tannama, Krishna's name. Accepting Krishna's name means we start chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And you become perfect. But we are so unfortunate. We are not even prepared to chant. This is our position. So you have to make a little determination that I shall chant henceforward Hare Krishna mantra. Then everything is all right. Actually, this is the question and answer session of this lecture. This is the third question. Somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, can we see in this Kali Yuga the Parama Atma using these bare eyes? So this is Prabhupada's answer. Prabhupada quoted the Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanana verse in this lecture. You can find this in Google about this lecture. Nice. And Prabhupada, after answering this man, he asked, is there any other question? And everybody was silent. And Prabhupada said to his disciple, now you can chant and they will follow. So the conclusion of today's class is that Bhakti, 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 and our life will become perfect. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Okay. It's almost 2 hours. We have 2 minutes for question and answer. If any questions or comments, you are welcome. Otherwise, I will close here. I'll stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Nice lecture. Very nicely described all the slokas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sripati Prabhu. Okay, I think that's all. We will see you, all of you, next week, same time. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhubhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo.
Vaishnava Namo Namah.
Jai Shri
Hare
Ram. Hare Krishna.